What is a stokvel?
Yeah, we could form a stokvel right here and we say, girls, let's plan a trip to Dubai next year. How do we finance it? We don't want to take credit. So let's start saving. Let's contribute 500 Rand a month or whatever. Let's agree where we're going to save the money. What are the terms and conditions? What happens if Shwe can't make it for whatever reason? So how do I exit? So all of those things are essentially just an agreement of this is our goal. This is how we're going to get there. And these are the terms and conditions. Whether that means, it's a travel stokvel, it's a saving stokvel, whatever it is, but it's just us agreeing what do we want to do, what are the terms and conditions around it.
Must you like each other to be in a stokvel, in your view?
A stokvel for me is that we are saving for the same thing. We either want to go on holiday or we want to buy a house, whatever it is, the goal must be the same. Whether I like you or not is another story.
First thing that came to mind was a savings club.
Okay.
It's just a club where people come in together, they save. And ultimately, we all know that there is a goal at the end of the day. With this money, what are we going to do with it? And I think it's important to have real clarity on the roles and what each person will do so that there's no confusion. I agree with you. You don't have to get along, but there has to be mutual respect.
That savings club, that group of people use their money. Some would use it to travel, and then some apparently use it to buy a home. How does it work?
It would depend on what we agree on as a collective, right? With buying a home, it comes with a very big upfront cost, transfer cost, bond registration, sometimes a deposit. So maybe you don't have the money, even if you qualify for the bond, but you don't have those upfront costs. So we can say our goal in the next 2 years is for all of us to own homes. So let's put a stokvel so that there's that sense of discipline and commitment so that each of us can at least save for those upfront costs. So that's one way that we can agree that we're forming a stokvel for this. The second way that we can do it is to say, okay, we want to buy Ushwe a house or Funeka a house or whoever the case might be.
So everybody
would be taking turns in acquiring the home.
The home.
Yes. Then the third option is if we say, let us then actually buy a property together that we can then place tenants in and collect rental income. So we use it for rental income, so that's the other way. It's an investment, right? So none of us, we've all got our homes, as we've already mentioned. So now we're buying the properties to get to the next level of actually now investing, which, is something that a lot of women still don't do. With the statistics of Lightstone, they're saying that the biggest buyer group, right, is women, right? But we're buying it to live in. We're not taking it to the next step and investing.
If we're buying a house, I'm realizing points of almost conflict or disagreement. As in, do we buy in Sandton? Do we buy in Durban? Do we buy on the coast? Do we buy a farm? How would you navigate that part?
Firstly, we need to agree as a group that, okay, this is the type of investment that we're getting in. It needs to be clear, right? So secondly, we need to have those people who are dedicated. We can't be 20 and all of us are going in different directions. There needs to be a board that is appointed to look after. They then go and seek these opportunities and they then present them to the members and say, maybe these are the shortlisted 3 opportunities. This is why this one works, this one works. Let's then decide collectively which one we go with. But also to her point, that committee needs to be empowered, right, with the relevant knowledge, because if you've never bought a property, you don't know anything, and now you are entrusted with buying such an expensive asset, that is a recipe for disaster. So they need to make sure that you invest in your knowledge, you research, you speak to professionals to assist you in making the right decisions around not only acquiring the property, but making sure that once you've kept it, how do you make sure that your investment basically yields the returns that you are hoping for?
What is the impact on my premium or on our premium, because we're in a collective ownership, if guests take away stuff?
If you're claiming for it, like it's a TV, and you're going to submit a claim, there's not going to be anything that impacts your premium immediately, but it will impact you at the time that the insurer decides to re-underwrite your policy and look at your previous losses. So it will impact you in that sense because it speaks to your claim frequency, it speaks to the amount that you've claimed for, and those type of properties are unfortunately high-risk properties, especially with kind of credit card theft, etc. So people book the property on a stolen credit card. They just come there to loot the place and then they leave again. So you have to be so careful.
And then in that case, what kind of insurance would this property have? Would it be business insurance or would it be personal insurance?
If they are doing it for investment purposes and they've registered a trust or a company, then I would insure it depending on what the buildings are going to be utilized for. So you can insure it either under your business policy actually, or you can take out a personal lines policy for the individuals themselves. So in this instance, where there's a company registered and they kind of going to invest in the property and they're going to have tenants in the property, I would suggest a business insurance in that instance. But if you're buying homes for the individuals in the stokvel, I would rather have those individuals take out their own personal lines policies as individuals to also build their own portfolios in terms of insurance as well. But you can do either or in that instance.
And then in the case of excess, we would each contribute equally.
As a stokvel, they can decide. Fortunately, the excesses on buildings aren't significantly high. That is something that they can save money for and accrue and basically keep aside if something happens. Alternatively, with your insurance contract, you can also speak about waiving the excess on a policy and having zero excess. You pay a little bit of a higher premium, but then at least you know when something happens, nobody has to cough up money at the time where there is a loss. So it kind of depends on what the stokvel's decision is in terms of their own liquidity and what is going to make the best sense for them.
Should you feel like, you know what, this marriage is long gone, how much time do you need to give notice to the board or the committee that you no longer desire to be part of this thing?
I know when buying property as a stokvel or even a business, you are bound to the terms to which you've agreed to. So if I'm paying as a stokvel still, not cash, but a bond as an example for this property that we've acquired, then you leaving the stokvel means that I'm minus a certain amount of money on a monthly basis, which means I've actually got to replace you, right? And that person's got to take over from where you left off. But there's a property involved. So there's probably contingencies around, listen, you might probably get your money, but at the point that we vest the investment, we will give you X amount, but this person's taken over and they are going to get X amount of the money. So in my mind, that's how I believe it should play out.
You know, stokvels have been there for many generations, right? It's one of the things that we know that are good in terms of just creating that commitment towards that common goal, right? So if it is something that you're considering, you know, do definitely first find people that you know are going to be committed to the similar goals as yourself. Set those terms and conditions so that everybody is protected, you know exactly how it works. And then really just invest in your knowledge around the particular investment that you're looking at. Because, I mean, for example, doing Airbnb versus student accommodation versus buying land and doing construction. Invest in your knowledge around that. Speak to professionals around that and make sure that you're really getting the best value for the investment that you've chosen.
Brilliant.
I think because it's such a big investment as well, right? By whether it's in a community, like in a stokvel, or you're buying it individually, definitely checking those T's and C's and doing the proper homework is important.
Yeah.